Hello everybody and welcome to the Import-Export Hub channel. I'm your host Bogdan, and on this channel, for those of you who are watching my videos for the first time, I cover import-export related topics, and in this episode I will be covering a little bit the imports and exports of Canada for 2020. But before I start talking about Canada's imports and exports, I have a huge request from you guys to hit the like and the subscribe buttons in order to help the content from this channel reach other import-export enthusiasts. So without anything else to add, let's start with the exports of Canada in 2020, and we see that the total exported value was at almost $390 billion, a value which is lower than the total exported value in 2016. Still, the figure is astonishing given the fact that Canada has more or less 37 million people, and okay, it's a huge country, has lots of resources, the business environment there, it's top class, but just for the sake of it, to put Canada's exports into perspective, India, for example, exported in the same year $275 billion, having a population of more than 1.3 billion people. And yes, maybe the comparison is a little bit stretched, but nonetheless, I think we should reckon Canada's footprint in the international trade environment. Anyways, continuing my analysis, we see that the values in 2020 shrunk with about 13% in relative terms, and let's face it, 2020 was a difficult year for all the countries out there. Now, in terms of export drivers, we see here that the biggest share in Canada's exports was Chapter 27, so mineral fuels and oils, with about $69 billion worth of exports, and a share in Canada's total exports of about 18%. The second main driver was Chapter 87, with a share in Canada's total exports of about 12%. And the third main driver, and I will stop here with the readings, is Chapter 84, so machinery and mechanical appliances, with a share of more than 7% in Canada's total exports. Now, looking at these top 10 export chapters, which make up for roughly 60% of Canada's total exports, we see that the majority had a contraction compared with 2019, ranging from a minus 2%, as in the case with Chapter 39, to a minus 30%, as in the case with Chapter 27. Nonetheless, there were some sectors who experienced some increases, like Chapter 99, for example, which unfortunately is not that relevant to this analysis, given the fact that we don't know exactly what was exported. We have the wood sector, who also saw an increase of 15%, but also Chapter 26, so ores, slags, and ash. Also, here I've added a table with Canada's top 10 export partners, and we see that the United States is the biggest and the most important one, which is understandable given the proximity and the fact that both Canada and the United States are members of NAFTA, or whatever it's called now. We have also other important trading partners like China, the United Kingdom, Japan, Mexico, and some European Union countries, with the Comprehensive Economic Trade Agreement that entered into force, if I remember correctly, since 1st of January 2016. Now, moving on the imports side, we see that the total imported value amounted to more than $404 billion, which is again comparable with the 2016 imported values. In terms of main import drivers, Chapter 84 is the first one, with more than $61 billion worth of imports and a share of 15% in Canada's total imports. On the second place, we have Chapter 87 with almost $56 billion and a share close to 14%. And on the third place, we see Chapter 85, with more than $39.5 billion worth of imports, having a share close to 10% in Canada's total imports. From this top 10 main import driver list, except chapters 71 and 30, the rest of them experienced some decreases in terms of relative values, ranging from a minus 3%, as in the case with chapter 99, to minus 40%, as in the case with chapter 27. Also, as you can see in the image, I've added the imports in order to see the balance of trade for these top 10 chapters, and the only ones in which Canada had a positive balance of trade are chapters 27 with more than $48 billion positive balance of trade, chapter 71 with more than $5.5 billion, and chapter 99 with more than $10 billion. And with all this being said about the main import and export drivers, I think we're ready to see who are the main partners for Canada's top 5 import and export chapters. And I will start with Canada's exports and the first chapter, which is chapter 27. And we see that the exports were pretty much concentrated towards the United States with more than $62.5 billion. But we see also quite impressive figures, exports towards Japan, China, South Korea, the Netherlands, or the United Kingdom. In terms of year-on-year changes in this top 10 partner list, we see that except Italy, who imported with almost 8% more than in 2019, the rest of the partners imported far less than in 2019. In terms of relative values, the range is quite high, if you ask me, from minus 1.5% as in the case with China to minus 48% as in the case with Mexico. Anyways, the most important market for Canada's exports, which is the United States, shrunk with more than 30%, which is kind of problematic, and I wonder if the trend is going to be in this direction in the years to come. I don't know, but then again, this is an important factor to consider in the medium and long terms, as gradually the internal combustion engine will be phased out and the petroleum companies from Canada will have to adapt their strategy and diversify according to this trend. Anyways, still a long way to go until then, and I was almost forgetting to give you some examples in terms of main drivers. So for Italy, we have petroleum oils, so HSCO 2709, and the main driver for Mexico's imports is petroleum gas, so HSCO 2711. Now, moving on to Canada's second export performer chapter, so chapter 87, we see again quite a big contraction, almost 25% compared to 2019. And again, the United States is the main trading partner, making up for much of Canada's total exports, which unfortunately contracted quite a lot, again more or less 25% contraction compared with 2019. Other important trading partners are Saudi Arabia, Mexico, China, or Taiwan, who is the only country in this top 10 list who had its imports from Canada increased with more than 155%. For the rest of the trading partners, the figures speak for themselves really, with contractions ranging from minus 3% to minus 57%. As for the main drivers, we see that the exports towards Saudi Arabia are driven by tanks and other armored fighting vehicles, while for Taiwan, HS code 8703 was the main import driver. Moving on to the third biggest export driver for Canada, which is Chapter 84. We see again that the total exports shrunk quite a lot year on year, bringing the exports to more or less the same value of 2016. And again, we see that the United States are the main export destination, followed by Germany, Mexico, France, and on the fifth place we have China. In terms of year-on-year changes, we see a lot of red in this top 10 list, except Brazil, who had a 22% increase. And I think that the main driver for this increase is Embraer, Brazil's commercial aircraft manufacturers. As you can see from for yourselves actually that turbojets, turbopropellers and gas turbines make up for Brazil's total imports from this chapter, as in the case with France also. Moving on to Canada's fourth biggest export driver, we see here a positive year-on-year change close to 8%, bringing the total exports close to $23 billion, with the United Kingdom being the main export destination, followed by the United States. We have Germany, Switzerland, and on the fifth place we see Norway. In terms of the biggest year-on-year increases in relative terms at least, we have the exports towards Germany, who gained more than 73%, while in terms of decreases, the biggest in relative terms again was in relation to Hong Kong, who imported 83% less from Canada in 2020. As for the main drivers, we have gold as in the case with Switzerland, and diamonds as in the case with Botswana. And here it struck me as I wouldn't have expected Botswana to be a major importer of diamonds until I've done a little bit of research and found out that Botswana is quite a big player in the diamond processing. Not as big as India, but nonetheless impressive if you ask me. Now, moving on to my last chapter concerning Canada's exports, and here unfortunately I can't talk much about this chapter, as there are some situations when countries decide not to disclose their exports or imports, in this case exports, at a more detailed level, and we see this chapter 99. And it has to do with the national security or because of confidentiality purposes. I don't really know, so I will move on to the first chapter in Canada's imports, which is chapter 84, and we see that the year-on-year relative value decreased with about 12%, with the United States being the major trading partner, followed by China, Mexico, Germany, and Japan on the fifth place. In terms of year-on-year changes, except China and Taiwan, all the rest had significant decreases, while in terms of main import drivers, we see that automatic data processing machines, so basically PCs and laptops, were the main driver for Canada's imports from China, while the turbojets and turbopropellers were the main import driver from the UK. Moving on to the second biggest import driver, which is chapter 87, we see some big contraction, almost 25% compared with 2019. Bringing the total imported value close to $56 billion, far less than in the previous years. And if we look closely, except South Korea, who had almost 1% increase compared to 2019, all the other trading partners from this top 10 list experienced some decreases ranging from minus 3%, as in the case with Belgium, to minus 45%, as in the case with the United Kingdom. The main import partners are the United States. We see Mexico, Japan, South Korea, and Germany on the 5th place. As for the main import drivers, we see that tanks and other armored fighting vehicles, so HS code 8710, represent the main driver for Canada's imports from Korea and Belgium, for example. The third biggest import driver for Canada is Chapter 85, which in 2020 had an imported value of about $39.5 billion and a year-on-year change of minus 10.5%, bringing the total value close to that from 2016. Now, in terms of the main trading partners, China is the main one, followed by the United States, Mexico, Vietnam on the 4th place, and Japan on the 5th one. In terms of year-on-year changes, except Vietnam's 47% increase, driven by Canada's demand for cellular phones, all the other countries had again significant decreases ranging from minus 1% as in the case with Thailand to minus 31% as in the case with South Korea, for example. Now, in terms of main import drivers, I've told you earlier about the demand for cellular phones from Vietnam, and I've added here another driver, which is insulated cables, so HS code 8544, which is the main import driver in relation with the United States. Now, moving on to the fourth biggest import driver, we have Chapter 27, and again we see that the demand shrunk with almost 40% compared with the previous year. The United States is again leading the way in relation to Canada's top trading partners, followed by Saudi Arabia, the Netherlands, Nigeria, and on the 5th place we have Norway. In terms of positive year-on-year changes, only Nigeria with HS code 2709 and Trinidad and Tobago with petroleum gas experienced positive changes in these top 10 trading partners. And with this being said, I think I can move on to the 5th and last chapter driving Canada's imports, which is Chapter 71, as you can see. And here it's very interesting to see that the imported value increased with almost 70% compared to 2019, bringing the total imported value to more than $17.3 billion, with the United States again being the main trading partner, followed by Peru, Brazil, South Africa, and we have Egypt on the 5th place. What's interesting to see in this top 10 list is how Mauritania entered these top trading partners with more than $579 million worth of imports. And it would be interesting to know if this is related to the activity of some Canadian mining company activity in Mauritania, or is there something else? And if there is somebody from you guys watching this video who's working in this sector of the economy, a feedback would be highly appreciated. So quite a large imported volume for Canada, and I've added here some examples about what drives Canada's imports from this chapter. And we see that for both Peru and Mauritania, gold is the main driver. So there you are, guys. These are the main imports and exports of Canada for 2020. And I think I can draw some conclusions related to Canada's international trading activity. The first one would be related to the huge importance of NAFTA, especially the import-export activities between Canada and the United States. For me, and this is a personal opinion, Mexico's trade relations and supply chains are more connected with the United States than with Canada, which is understandable as there is a lot of cross-border activity between Mexico and the United States, given their close proximity. But then again, Canada's huge reliance on the United States for both imports and exports, but most importantly exports, can be problematic if some crisis were to occur in the United States, for example. Remember, too much export concentration can be very problematic for both countries and companies. Which brings me to my second conclusion, one related to the reliance on exports of petroleum products, which can be again problematic in the long run, I don't know, 30 to 50 years, for example, as in the case with all big petroleum exporters, especially those from the Middle East. But at the same time, Canada is not that heavily reliant on petroleum exports as the countries from the Middle East. And given the multitude of natural resources Canada is having, and the fact that, let's face it, Canada is a very complex economy and has lots of value-added activities, I am sure that companies from Canada working in the petroleum sector are already thinking of diversifying or investing in new technologies in order to capture the current trend towards a net zero carbon emission. The third and last conclusion is related to China's rising share in Canada's total imports, and you have here the figures showing Canada's total imports from China from 2016 until 2020. It's by no means comparable with the values coming from the United States, but they worth taking into account as China is on the second place with more than $57 billion worth of imports, which is almost 3 times larger than the imports coming from Mexico, for example. So that's it, guys. These are the main imports and exports of Canada from 2020. You saw the main trading partners and what products drive both the imports and exports for certain countries. I really hope you've enjoyed it. Don't forget to comment down below and hit the like and the subscribe buttons. And as usual, until next time, keep your business safe. Thanks.